Welcome back to Rock Your Best Vocals. Do you find yourself tuning down or asking your band to tune down if you want to sing a song because you're like, okay, that's not in my range? When you don't work your muscles out, what happens to your muscles? They become atrophy. They're certainly not going to grow. Being that the fact that your vocal folds are a muscle, wouldn't it make sense to really sing kind of beyond your limits to stretch your vocal folds? I'm only saying this from my own perspective. When I have not stretched my vocals like to outside of my normal range, I've stayed in that normal range. When I've tried to sing beyond that quote unquote normal range, that's when I noticed that I could sing higher and higher. If you're not stretching your vocal folds, you're not giving them an opportunity to stretch and be able to sing higher. The other thing is that you may be just putting too much tension up in your voice as well. So I've talked about this on the channel before, is the importance of strengthening head voice, and that will then strengthen your mix. But the important part of that is when you strengthen your head voice and you keep that same resonance down through into your lower range or chest voice, it's all going to feel like the same thing. If we take a note, like if you siren up to the highest note that you can, and I like to do this kind of on a yawn. And so if you're in a yawn position, like you're really tired and you've worked for 3 days straight, you haven't slept, and you're super, super tired, and you go to do a yawn, and you just want to say how tired you are at the top of that yawn. Oh man, I'm so tired. I've worked for 3 days straight. Oh, you can feel like this. Oh. So what happens, the reason why this works so well is because when you do a yawn, your larynx tilts forward and it stretches your vocal folds out. So your vocal folds run front to back. And when you yawn, your larynx, which you put your fingers on either side of your Adam's apple, like that's all your larynx there. And you can feel when you yawn really deeply, you can feel that your larynx will shift slightly forward. So what that does is your vocal folds are like this when you're normal talking, whatever, like this. And then when you do that little laryngeal tilt, your vocal folds stretch out a little bit more. And when they stretch more, that equates to higher notes. So the higher you can shift that, the more you're going to get a stretch on the vocal folds, and also the cleaner the sound will become because the vocal folds are nice and tight, and you need less air to push through the high note as well. So a lot of times I've found when I was singing falsetto stuff, I used to sing falsetto and you would kind of get to that really super high note and you'd feel like you'd have to push more air to get it. And that's exactly the opposite way that it will work for you. So if you just think of a little tiny bit of air coming up through, I just think of like a little tiny bit of thread of air coming up through the vocal folds. You're just like pulling the air up through your vocal folds. I'm actually like backing off the air as much as possible. I've talked about this also on the channel before. This inhalare la voce, which is it's Italian for inhale the voice, or they would say, drinking the voice. There's other things like that, but it's this feeling of kind of like the beginning of a sneeze, like when you're. So if you try that now, just. Feel that kind of, if you just gently put your fingers on either side of your larynx and you feel this little shift forward. You can feel that kind of like the movement of the vocal fold. Well, you can't really feel the vocal folds moving, but you can notice that when you just send just a little bit of air, just allow this kind of little vapor of air, pull this thread of air, pull it up instead of pushing the air up and blowing a ton of air, I think that you'll find that you're able to sing higher, and then you can stretch your higher range, feel comfortable up in this high range up here, start kind of talking in this range up here, like, oh yeah, I'm at the top of an inhale, like I'm yawning and it's bedtime. You know, I mean, you can see how like you can transfer that to singing quite easily. And another thing, the important thing about that as well is staying in that position of an inhale, which I've talked about that on the channel before as well. Staying in the position of an inhale, you're up at this top of the yawn, and then you're just up at the top, talking up at the top of the yawn. Oh my God, it's bedtime! Oh, and then you can just transfer that to singing. It's really easy then to transfer that into singing when you get the feeling of staying in that inhale and at the top of the yawn. So let me know how that works for you in the comments below, and you can join me on Patreon or become a member to the channel here to support the channel and for exclusive content. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. Rock your best vocals, where your best keeps getting better.